Hi, this is Ron, the colorblind artist, and I've been drawing ever since I could pick up a pencil. A few years back, I decided to give painting a try. And not just any painting, I want to paint a masterpiece. So I decided to make these videos to document my journey from a beginning painter all the way to that masterpiece. Now just how far I'll go, we'll just have to wait and see. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. I started this painting out by using the grid system to sketch out my composition. It is on a 30 by 40 inch stretched canvas. I then went over it with an acrylic wash of burnt sienna and a little bit of titanium white. Next, I went over all my really dark areas. I did this just to help keep it from me losing these dark lines once I start getting my paint down on the canvas. Now, I think it's really important I go over the colors I use. I typically use a very small palette, normally the three primary colors, a brown and a black and white. And I wanted to make a really colorful, vivid painting. So I want to go over these colors real quick just to show people what they can do with a small, limited palette. And my three primary colors I'm using for this are, of course, red, yellow, and blue, but it's a permanent alizarin crimson, a cadmium yellow pale hue, and a French ultramarine. I also had a burnt umber, a titanium white, and very little Mars black. Now, when I try out new colors, I like Winsor Newton paints, but when I try the different colors in there, like I used to use this yellow, I'm not sure which yellow it was, but it was a really transparent yellow. And of course, I did some paintings. I used the whole tube, and I will do that. I'll at least give it a try until I either can't work with it anymore or figure that I can find something better. And that first yellow I used, I didn't like it at all. It didn't cover anything, but this cadmium yellow pale hue, uh, I like how it covers. It's got good coverage. I guess they call it very opaque. It seems to be working for me. And here I'm starting on the blanket. Well, at the time it was a blanket. I wasn't even sure if I was going to make it into a patch quilt. I thought I was going to see if I can just do it in blue, but somewhere along the line, I just thought it was a little boring. So thought I'd come back to that. And here I'm starting on skin tones. Skin tones have always been the hardest thing for me to do since I started painting. Not because I have trouble seeing colors. I think skin tones are probably hard for everybody. The main problem with doing skin tones is there's no magic formula. There's not a person that can tell you, you mix these colors together for this area or this area. Skin tones can be any color. And the only advice I would have as far as doing skin tones is just practice, keep practicing. And after working on the skin tones a while, I was getting a little frustrated, so I moved on to the little pink shirt and her little blue denim dress she was wearing. For the little pink shirt, I just used some of the alizarin crimson with some titanium white to lighten up the value a little bit, and a little bit of cadmium yellow. And for the denim dress, I used a French ultramarine, some titanium white to lighten up the values, and I used a touch of burnt umber just to kind of desaturate it a little bit. All right, I went back to some of these skin tones, and there there are tons of different ways you can do this. I've seen several different artists use different techniques. One technique is I've seen somebody will paint like the entire eye and completely finish it, and they'll move on to the nose, and they'll move on to the other eye. I've tried that technique, but it doesn't work for me at all because I always have a trouble uh, trying to associate those values with the rest of the painting. And I like to build it in layers. That way I can try to keep my values in order. And then other artists, and matter of fact, most artists that I've watched online will start with the darkest values first, as far as the skin tones, and then it will work to the highlights. I've tried that technique, it's worked for me. Of course, I haven't quite got the colors down correctly. But the good news is that I've recently watched a video, and they've kind of, and I will go to it in more detail in my next video because I was about 90% done with this painting when I finally learned this, and I will go into more details in my next video. It was really helpful for me. Of course, I'm sorry it was a little bit too late for this painting to use that. Although I thought I did pretty good on this painting with the skin tones. And one thing that keeps me motivated in going is that I never compare my work to someone else's, Van Gogh or Rembrandt or another great artist I follow online. I always compare my work to work I've done in the past. And I just look for improvement. As long as there's improvement, that gives me the motivation to keep painting. And as far as the hair, the two kids got blonde hair. It's mostly burnt umber and titanium white, and I know there was quite a bit of yellow in there. For the darker areas, I used that burnt umber with a little bit more red in there to darken it up. And some of the really, really dark areas of the hair, I added some of the French ultramarine blue. And the area I enjoy doing most are the eyes. A lot of people will save the final detail of the eyes for last, but I kind of like to do them when about halfway through the painting because finishing up the painting, I don't want to look at these little dead eyes. I want to see these happy little cute little faces smiling at me while I'm working on different areas of the painting. It's another thing that keeps me motivated. And here I'm changing the color a little bit of this fence back here, giving a little bit more detail. I decided I didn't need to give it a whole lot of detail. It wasn't important. It wasn't my main subject. I didn't want it to take away from the kids, so I did it pretty quickly. I just got the color I want and uh, kind of filled in the blanks and didn't give it a whole lot of detail. Didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. And then I did a little bit of work on the grassy area. Working with these greens. Sometimes greens can be difficult. Of course, I had to lighten up some of these areas. I wanted to make sure that people knew it was a nice sunny day out. And here I'm working on the little pink scrunchies. Uh, Basically, it's the same colors I used for the pink shirt. And then I moved on to his little white shirt. It didn't ended up looking more like a light blue shirt, but I thought that was fine, and I was fine with it. But white's very difficult to do. It's a little, it's really easy to make it too dark. So you got to be real careful when you do something like a white shirt. Make sure it doesn't turn out blue. Mine did, but that was fine. And this is the point in the painting where I decided that I was going to do like a little patch quilt. Uh, I originally was going to make it just a little blue quilt, but I just didn't think it looked, I don't know, jazzy enough. So I went ahead and made this little grid line, and I started putting in these little different color patch quilts. And I had a decision to make whether I wanted it to be desaturated so it didn't take away from the two kids, or to make it really saturated. So I actually ended up overpainting this several times until I got what I wanted, and I decided that I did want it really saturated. It kind of took away from the realism of the painting, but I never classify myself as a photorealistic artist, and I just liked it really saturated, and I just went for it. I made it as colorful as I could. And of course, you can't have a shirt without buttons, so I painted a few buttons here on his shirt. And here I'm starting to paint the quilt for the last time, and this is when I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and add saturation. And saturation is simply how vivid a color is. When you desaturate it, you kind of dull it down with either a brown or the complementary color. And the main thing is for people to realize that you don't need a whole bunch of colors to make a really colorful painting. You can do it with the three primary colors, a brown and a black and white, and you can make any color under the rainbow, anything you want. You just have to know the color wheel and just practice mixing paints. And if anybody is interested in following me here on Rumble, or also I'm on True Social, and you can find me as The Colorblind Artist at both places. And while I'm finalizing with some final details here, I want to thank everyone for watching. I really enjoyed painting this. I learned a lot while doing it. Thank you for watching. Take care and God bless.